You need to stop blaming your circumstances in life on God and saying that He's the reason why you're not where you're at. Okay? I don't know who it is, but someone needs to hear this. This was put on my heart today to share with you that if right now you feel that maybe it's the business that you've always wanted to start, or the job promotion that didn't happen, or there's that relationship that you thought was God's plan for your life and it didn't actually work out. In any of these situations, it's so tempting to just go, God, how could you? I thought that you showed me. I thought there was a sign. I thought I went to church. I met my pastor. I met my mentor. I read this verse. Something happened in my life. Some kind of coincidence set up, and it didn't work out the way you thought. Listen to me. If right now you are in that kind of hole, I was exactly there 5 years ago, and I want to tell you exactly how I got out of that, and how you can too. 5 years ago, I was completely broke. I was in about $100,000 in student debts in university, and I was on my fourth failed business venture, okay? About 2 years into my business journey, I had this confirmation sign that I truly felt this was God's plan for my life. Long story short, I was in England, okay? I was in the UK, and I met the owner of a very, very successful fitness company doing about $300 million a year. Gymshark, if you've ever heard of it. It's competing against Nike, competing against Under Armour. And the owner told me this word for word. He said, Richard, you need to take a bigger risk. And then I shook his hand and I said, you've inspired me to dream a bigger dream. Listen to that closely. He told me, take a bigger risk, Richard. And then I shook his hand and I said, you've inspired me to dream a bigger dream. 48 hours later, at a completely different event, it's my last day in England. I go to a church that I'd never walked into before. It was Hillsong London. I know Hillsong are very controversial. That's not the point here. It was a very, very well-known pastor that went, and it was so funny because he was from Los Angeles, guest pastor. He said at the very, very end of his message, you need to take a bigger risk in life and you need to dream a bigger dream. Word for word, exactly what this entrepreneur had told me 48 hours later ago at a completely separate event. I knew that was a confirmation from the Lord. Hey, Richard, you got to drop out of this pre-med path and you got to go in this business, because I had been 1 foot in medicine, 1 foot in entrepreneurship. I'd failed all these businesses, but quite frankly, the reason why I failed was because I was not all in. Okay, so listen closely here. Okay, hang with me here for a minute. You're going to understand where I'm going with this. The moment I dropped pre-med and I started working on this business, I was on fire. I thought that this was 100% God's plan for my life and that nothing was going to touch me. The next business that I launched was an ATM company. I was buying up ATMs, used ATMs. I was putting them in barbershops, putting them in cash-only restaurants. The very first ATM I borrowed $2,000 from my dad. I'm already in debt. I've used up all my savings. And a month in, it gets robbed. I lose all the money from the ATM. I'm like, God, I remember falling down on my knees. It was 2 days after Christmas, 2018. I was 20 years old. I said, Lord, I straight up heard from you that this was the plan that you have for my life. I literally had a confirmation from a pastor telling me this is the clear as night and day sign. I've been praying on this for years, yet this happens. And the massive aha moment that took me years finally to realize I want to pass on to you today is this. Listen closely. Listen to me. Just because it was God's plan for your life, and just because it is God's plan for your life, does not mean it's going to be easy. I don't know who needs to hear this today, but you need to hear this, okay? Look at when God freed the Israelites from Egypt, from slavery, 400 years of slavery, generation after generation after generation. Man, America's not even barely over 300 years old. Man, Israelites were enslaved. They were a country. They were literally slaves for 400 years, and finally they're released. And they walked in the desert for 40 years before they actually got to the promised land. Before they were able to see the final fulfilled promise of what God had planned from them from the very beginning. They went 40 years. Now, I don't want to get into technicalities. Obviously, they sinned and they went against God, and that's why God had the 40 years. But the point I'm trying to make here, listen to me. If right now you do not feel that you are moving on God's path, or you feel like you're not moving fast enough or slow enough, especially in the context of business. I know so many business people follow me, or you aspire to be an entrepreneur, beginner entrepreneurs, you guys follow me. I struggled for another 3 years before I actually found success after that event. So I failed that event, and then 3 years later, finally 3 years later, I got success. Why? Because I trusted in the process and I worked faithfully even while I was going through the desert. I'm telling you today that if you are going through the desert right now, you need to persevere. And I'll tell you, for me, the biggest mistake that I made was that I did not find a mentor, okay? And it was really funny as I reflect back on this. It was almost as if God was saying, Richard, it doesn't have to be this difficult. You think I'm trying to put you through the desert for 40 years? I want to put you in the desert for 1 or 2 years because I want to see if you're willing to trust me. But the problem is I was watching for YouTube videos and reading all these books and buying cheap courses for $7, $200, which was a lot of money for me back then, but I didn't commit to finding a real mentor. And the moment I actually found a mentor for me, given I'm a Christian man of faith, I found a Christian mentor who resonated with my values. Family was important to him. Fitness was really important to him. Health was important to him. And he had a successful business. And I hired that mentor. I invested into that mentor. I bought his mentorship. I flew out to his in-person events. He had some mastermind events in person a couple times a year. I did those things. And that first year out of university, while I was working a 9-to-5 job, my business did its first $500,000 in sales in 8 months. Changed my life completely. Next year, $5 million in sales. The year after that, over $10 million in sales. Today, I have over 50 full-time employees across the 3 companies that I operate. I am a testimony of the fact that when I embraced the desert, and then I also realized God was saying, Richard, it doesn't have to be that hard. You're making it harder than it has to be. He placed a mentor within my life, and maybe I can be that mentor. If I can be that mentor for you, I would be honored. Okay, I could be honored. There's a free course that I give. I love giving this out because it's the exact strategies that I first learned. I put into this free course and the easiest step-by-step methods. Okay, it's the first link down below. Just go through it. Please send me a message on Instagram. Okay, I'll put my Instagram right here because YouTube still doesn't give us a ability to send messages back and forth. If you have any questions on the course, if you learned anything from the course, send me a message on Instagram. I respond to all my DMs on Instagram, and I also post daily. I don't have enough time on YouTube to post daily. I post daily on Instagram to encourage you. So if you have any questions, if this has encouraged you, or if you learned something from the free course, message me the word YouTube on my Instagram account. I'll get back to you. I respond to all my DMs. I promise you, I will try my best to get back to you the quickest way possible. But the most important thing you have to remember, all right, is you need to keep going. Right now, you're in the desert. You are being tested. But remember, just because you're being tested, it doesn't mean it's God's plan. It's not God's plan for your life, okay? Stop saying, oh, it wasn't God's plan. It's supposed to be hard, man. Building a business is supposed to be hard. Having a successful marriage is supposed to be hard. Actually making sure your kids are succeeding and you have a great relationship with your family and your kids, that's supposed to be hard. The beauty is in the struggle. So embrace the struggle, embrace the suck, embrace the grind. And I'm rooting for you every step of the way, all right? Hit that subscribe button because I'm here to encourage you, and I want to get my videos in front of you so I can actually encourage you. I can't do so if you're not subscribed. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, all right? Remember that how you do one thing is how you do everything. God bless you. I'm rooting for you.